Welcome back. In our previous video, we examined the where clause with one single equality condition. Now we are going to examine how we can write more complex conditions using Boolean operators. There are three main Boolean operators that we are going to use. So the first one is the AND operator that combines two conditions, condition 1 and condition 2. The AND operator combines the two conditions into a new one, and the overall condition is true only when both condition 1 and condition 2 are true. The second operator is the OR operator, which again combines two conditions, condition 1 or condition 2. In this case, the overall condition is true when at least one of them is true. It can be condition 1, it can be condition 2, it can be both. The only case where the overall condition is not true is when both condition 1 and condition 2 are false. There is a third operator as well called NOT that goes in front of a condition. The syntax is not followed by condition, and the NOT operator simply reverses the outcome of a condition, and is actually pretty straightforward. Let's see a few examples of using Boolean conditions within where clauses. So we'll start and we'll focus on the actors table. We want to find all the actresses whose first name is Skylar. So in this particular case, we have two conditions. The first name needs to be Skylar, and the second condition is that the gender needs to be female. To write this condition, we are going to need to use a Boolean operator. So we start, right? So we are going to go to the actors table and we are going to get all the attributes for now, since we want all the info for the table actors. So we go, select star from actors, and we want actresses whose first name is Skylar. So with what we learned in the prior video, we go and write where first underscore name is equal to Skylar within quotes. So this is one condition. Now let's execute this query as is, right? So we execute and you'll see that we get back results that include both males and females that are named Skylar. Of course, we want to limit the results only to females, so we need to add another condition, and we need both conditions to be true for a row to appear in the results. Since we want both conditions to hold, we are going to use the AND operator. So we go and we augment our query and we type at the end AND gender is equal to F within quotes. Now we execute the query and you'll see that we get back the correct entries. So we have Skylar Blankenship, Skylar Campbell, Skylar Day, and so on. Notice that both conditions hold. Both the first name is Skylar and the gender is F, which is female. Let's work now with the second query. We want to fetch all the info for the director Steven Spielberg. How can we write this query, right? First, since we want to fetch director information, we go to the directors table, and since we want to fetch all the attributes, we write select star from directors. And of course, we want now the director Steven Spielberg. How can we write this condition, right? We need two conditions to hold. The first name needs to be Steven and the last name needs to be Spielberg, and we want both of these conditions to hold at the same time. So we continue our query and we write where first underscore name is equal to Steven within quotes and last name is equal to Spielberg, again within quotes. Again, remember, first name, last name are both textual attributes, so we need to use quotes when we are comparing against the textual value. So we execute the query and we see that we get back the entry for Steven Spielberg from the directors table with ID 75380. Let's do another query around directors. We want to find all the information for the directors with last name Scorsese, Polanski, and Spielberg. Okay, so let's give it a shot. So select directors and we continue with our where clause where last name is equal Scorsese and we also want people with Polanski and Spielberg, so let's continue our approach using the things that we have seen before. And last name is equal to Polanski, and last name is equal to Spielberg. Let's run this query. Notice that we get nothing back. Why is that? We use now the AND operator. Effectively, what we are asking now is that for a single line in the results to come back, we need the attribute in that row, the last name, to be Scorsese, and at the same time it needs to be Polanski, and it needs to be Spielberg. Of course, this is not possible, right? So we specified the condition using Kant, and we created an impossible condition. Instead, what we want to say using Boolean operators is the following. As long as the last name is Scorsese, or the last name is Polanski, or the last name is Spielberg, then please return back the row. So let's go back and revise our condition, and we are going to replace AND with OR. So we type where last name is equal to Scorsese, or last name is equal to Polanski, or last name is equal to Spielberg. Now, if we execute the query, you'll see that we get back the entries for Roman Polanski, Martin Scorsese, and Steven Spielberg. Let's try to do one more query that is going to be a little bit more advanced. We want to find all the info for directors Tarantino, right? Stanley Kubrick and Orson Welles. Before trying to make something too complex, well, we can say, well, what's the difference, right? This query looks very, very similar to the query that we just did with Scorsese, Polanski, and Spielberg. So we are going to reuse the same query. So we go back and we are going to modify our prior query and use just the last name attribute. We don't need to use the first name. So we write select star from directors where last name is equal to Tarantino, or last name is equal to Kubrick, or last name is equal to Welles. Very similar to the query before, we just skip writing anything about first name, we just use the conditions for the last. We run the query, and what we get back is not exactly what we wanted. We get back the directors that we wanted, however, notice that we have two Kubricks in the database. We have Stanley Kubrick and Vivian Kubrick. We have plenty of Tarantinos. Cosme, Luis, Paul, Quentin, Tony. We also have two Welles. So by omitting the first names, we really don't get the right results. So we need to include the first names of the directors in the condition. So how can we do that, right? You remember how we wrote the query for Steven Spielberg? So let's try now to transfer this query and this condition into the query that we are attacking right now. So we go and we type where first name is Quentin and last name is Tarantino. This query, if you execute it, returns back the entry for Quentin Tarantino. Okay, now we need to get the other two directors, Stanley Kubrick and Orson Welles, right? So to add the conditions that will allow these two directors to come back, we are going to need to combine OR and AND together. So first, let's add parentheses around our existing condition to make a little bit more clear the separation. So we need both the conditions on the first name and the last name to be met to get back the results of this query. And we also want to get back the rows where the first name is going to be equal to Stanley and the last name is equal to Kubrick. So we put now OR, and then we continue with our second condition, or open parenthesis, first name is equal to Stanley and last name is equal to Kubrick, closing parenthesis, and we're going to add another condition as well, or first name is equal to Orson and last name is equal to Welles. So now we have the query that combines the AND and OR, and we specify that we are looking for these three directors. So if we execute now the query, you'll see that we get back the results that include now just the entry for Stanley Kubrick, the entry for Quentin Tarantino, and the entry for Orson Welles. More complex, but it's pretty common to see conditions like that in everyday SQL statements. Also, in reality, we don't really need the parentheses in this particular query because in terms of priorities, the operator AND has higher priority than OR. However, adding the parentheses in the query makes the query more readable and more understandable, which are good things to have. So to summarize, we have seen how we can use the Boolean operators AND and TOR to create conditions in the where clause that are more complex. Remember, the AND operator combines two conditions into a new one, and the new condition holds only when both the underlying conditions hold. The OR operator again combines two conditions into a new one, and the new condition holds as long as at least one of the underlying conditions hold, and we have seen how we can combine AND and TOR together to create conditions of higher complexity. We're going to continue in our next video with other types of conditions that we can use in the where clause, and we'll get plenty of practice with writing such conditions. Until then, play around and practice. See you next time.